đến visit một cái sugar camp khá là đặc biệt. Và ở đây thì chúng ta sẽ có được xem được chính người local họ sẽ giới thiệu cái cách thức làm cái syrup, maple syrup sẽ là như thế nào. Và trước mặt của mình đây, phía trước đây là một cái cầu gỗ cũng khá là gọi là giống như là cầu nhà gỗ, rất là phổ biến cũng như là rất là đặc biệt ở vùng Atlantic này. Dọc dọc ở vùng Atlantic này chúng ta cũng sẽ có một cái cây cầu gỗ được xem là lâu đời nhất trên thế giới. Thì cái hình thức cây cầu này mình sẽ thấy nó giống như cầu mái ngói Thanh Toàn ở Huế của mình đó. Đó chỉ vậy thôi. Rồi bây giờ mình đi vào trong nha. Đây được xem là được xem giống như là một cái bảo tàng, một cái museum trưng bày nói về cái nguồn gốc cũng như là cái cách để làm cái maple syrup. Và ở đây thì được hiệp hội du lịch của tỉnh MB và đặc biệt ở Mountain suggest, cho nên là mình biết chỗ này. Ở đây được gọi là Sugarwood Camp. Thì họ làm cũng khá là bài bản và miễn phí. Tuy nhiên là mình sẽ phải gọi điện đến để làm cái đặt chỗ trước. Sau đó là họ sẽ arrange cho mình cái tour.
If you want to raise your hand and say where you're from, it'd be kind of cool to see whether we have more than just people from maybe Moncton, New Brunswick, or even Canada here today.
We're from Moncton.
We are from Moncton.
From Mountain.
Yeah, but where are you really from?
Vietnam.
There you go. Okay, anybody else from another place other than Moncton or even from Canada? Japan. Okay.
Oh.
Anybody else? From where? BC. Okay. Ottawa. Anybody else in Canada or outside Canada?
Và bây giờ là chúng ta gặp đúng cô tourist guide.
New Hampshire. Good maple
Cổ
syrup in New
sẽ
Hampshire.
bắt đầu làm quen.
Hong
Thì ngày
Kong, no
hôm nay
maple syrup there,
là
but you
cũng
can
là
buy
một ngày
Canadian
khá là đặc
maple
biệt,
syrup
bởi
there.
vì là mình có đi cùng với một cái nhóm của trường sinh viên của trường đại học Mount Allison.
Pretty local to
Có
here.
đang là một cái động khá là
Wonderful.
warm up.
So you need
Yeah.
to come over so you can see.
Khá nhiều bạn sinh viên đến từ khắp nơi trên thế giới. Có
Okay,
từ
so
Nhật
what I want
Bản,
to show
Hồng
you
Kông,
first, maybe
Việt
it's more
Nam.
so for these
Yeah.
students, by the way, are from Mount Allison, for the people that are here from Moncton with their family.
Yep.
So this is a group of university students that are studying a variety of sciences or whatever it is that you are studying.
Yeah.
What is everybody studying? Anything exciting? Is your teacher here? Maybe you gotta be careful what we say. Okay, you're not
You can
faculty.
speak freely.
Okay. Okay, so I want to show you for the students that are here, just my background is environment. I took forestry and environmental science at university, and I've been working for the city for almost 30 years, managing all their natural resources. So the city of Moncton has about 15,000 acres of forest that we manage. Some are in parks, some are along trails, some are in reservoirs like where you are here. When you actually cross the dam and you've seen that water tower in the water, this is actually the tri-community's drinking water supply. So Moncton, Riverview, and Dieppe get their drinking water from this source. So it's about 15 minutes outside of Moncton, as you can see. But what it's called a watershed. So that's what this map kind of shows. It kind of shows like the watershed, it's like a designation. Okay, and when you have a drinking water supply, there's a
Có
lot
đang
of
giải thích
rules
cái nguồn nước.
inside
Lúc nãy là mình
here
nói là
as
ở
resident
dân ở
in Moncton or
Riverview hay là dân ở
Riverview or Dieppe.
Mountain đó,
Meaning that
là mình
things
sẽ
that you want to do, if you
dùng
want
cái
to
nguồn nước
build,
từ
you
đâu.
want to put a road,
Đó,
you
cậu
want
lấy
to do
lúc
a
nãy
garden,
tí xíu là mình sẽ
you
đi
want
ra
to do
cái
a
chỗ cái nguồn
trail,
nước
you
đó.
have to get special permission because the way that a watershed works, and you would know this being in school, if you haven't learned this yet, I'm sure you have, is that a watershed always drains in, right? Because you want the water to come from your higher, which we have if you go farther up in Turtle Creek, Caledonia Mountain. It's where we get our water from, actually, from the mountains. And it drains into the watershed, which is what this area is here. So this area is all protected. My point is that it's protected. So the red that you see on the map is what is owned by Crown, which is actually managed by J.D. Irving in New Brunswick. The yellow, which you might be able to see on there, it's kind of faded, this is old, is city land. We own about probably 10,000 acres out here in the watershed. And the white is private land. So that would be private land like if you had a camp or you had property. So we all work together. So J.D. Irving, myself, the Wood Marketing Board, we all work together to manage the resources in this watershed for water protection and for water quality. And if you know J.D. Irving, for those of you that are from or not from New Brunswick, J.D. Irving is a big forestry company. You see lots of signs on the road saying we manage our forests and so on. And what's really nice about the partnership that we have here is every stream, which I could hold this up and I could put my finger and I could touch anywhere on the map and I would be touching a brook. Those brooks have a 30-meter buffer that you cannot cut, can't build a road. You might be able to cross it, but you have to have a special permit. 30-meter no cut and a 45-meter that you can do a selection. So you could pick trees here and there in that 45-meter. What J.D. Irving decided to do, instead of it just being 30-meter, we're going to give you another 30 meters. So we're going to make a 60-meter buffer on each side of that brook to give you that protection that you need for drinking water. So that was a very, I think, a very bold move, because that would, if you look at the reservoir when you go out, it's all beautiful trees around your reservoir. They're older trees. They're supporting the banks. Those trees are valued trees, money-wise. But I look at it as they're valued for us as a municipality as supporting our drinking water supply. So we don't want to cut those. We want to leave those. They do what we need them to do to provide us with a safe drinking water. So this area is a special area. I guess that was my point. So if I wanted to build a road, do this, do that, build a garage, well, I would have to have a special permit to do so because of the drinking water. So that's my point there. Okay, so let's get to maple. So I'm going to do part of it outside.
Tôi đã giải thích là lý do tại sao mà cái khu vực này là cây trồng ở đây á, là mình sẽ được bảo vệ. Mục đích là cũng để làm bảo vệ cái nguồn nước của nguyên cả một cái vùng này.
It just looks like water. Okay, so you can look after in the pail, you'll be able to take a peek.
Và bây giờ là đang quay đến cái chỗ là cái phần nhựa của cái cây phong.
Coming out of the tree. So coming out of the tree, it's 2 to 3% sugar, 98% water. What does water do when it gets cold? Freezes, that's correct. So we need the sun to warm up the trees, warm up the lines, warm up everything, us included, so that the sap will run. Okay, so this is my next map that I want to show you, my next board. Ivana. So, anybody here like science? Or is it just me? Oh, come on!
I have some science students.
Where's your science? Come on. So basically, maple season is science-based, okay? So we need a cold night, like last night was -8, which is perfect. And we need a +4, +5, +6 during the day. So we need a cold night, warm day for the sap to move from the roots up the tree. Too cold? This week we had probably a lot of days it was -12, -13. Everything's frozen. Frozen in the roots, frozen everywhere. The sap is not running. Too warm, +14, +15. The trees will reserve their sap. Because they think that, wait a minute, my buds are already supposed to be out when it's this temperature. I've got to reserve my sap to try to protect
Cô đang giải
myself
thích
and
là
survive.
cái cách để mà làm sao mà cái cây phong này nó có thể chiết xuất ra được cái phần nhựa. Thì vào mùa đông thì tất cả như là ra mùa đông cứng là hết tất cả mọi thứ. Tuy nhiên khi bắt đầu mùa xuân thì bắt đầu cái phần nhựa nó sẽ chiết xuất ra theo cái hướng chiều ngược lại. Tức là mùa trước đó là nó sẽ hút nước lên, xong rồi cái mùa sau nó sẽ chảy nước, chảy ngược lại. Mình thấy.
Somebody might ask, how long is the maple season? It really varies from year to year. Some years we start on March break and we boil till April 10th. This year we're starting later because we had about 2 days and then everything froze solid for like a week. So Mother Nature's not quite there, although they say now the next week is looking like spring. And today is spring or tomorrow?
Và cái mùa bắt đầu để đi thu hoạch cái nhựa của cây phong này là tốt nhất là từ mùa nghỉ đông, là từ March break cho tới khoảng tầm ngày 10 tháng 4. Và hôm nay rất là đặc biệt là ngày đầu của mùa xuân, ngày báo đầu mùa xuân, cho nên là thời tiết rất là đẹp luôn.
Does anybody here tap trees before on their own? Nobody tap trees? Oh, you're missing out in all the work. If you ever want to tap trees in New Brunswick or I'll show you the area where you can, it's important that you know what species of maple to tap. Boys, it would be awful to go to all this work and tap trees to find out there's no sweet in the sap. It has happened. I had a gentleman that tapped Norway maple, which Moncton is full of Norway maple, all along the roads, all along the trails. It looks like a maple leaf. They tapped it, no sugar in the sap. So the only two species of maple, and I don't have my thing with me, I'll show you inside, is sugar maple and red maple. Okay, we have mountain maple,
Không phải là tất cả những
Norway
cái loại
maple, silver maple, Manitoba maple,
cái
black
phong đều cho ra
maple.
cái nhựa để mình
They're
dùng
all
được.
going to draw sap through
Là
their
chỉ có
bodies,
những cái
but there's only those two that have the sugar in the sap.
sẽ dùng những cái cây
Now, if we think
có
of
là
how
gọi
much
là cái phong lá
sap
đỏ
do you
hoặc
think
là
it
đặc
takes
biệt
to
để
make
cho ra
one
cái
pail
loại
of
nhựa.
maple syrup? So how many pails like this of sap do you think it would take to make one pail of maple syrup? Knowing that there's only 2 to 3% sugar in the sap, and I'm going to change that when I boil it to 66% sugar. So how many pails do you think it's going to take to make one pail of maple syrup? 5 or 6, more than that. More than 15? More than 30? Less than 50? 40. 40 pails. 40 pails. So if you had a pail system, we don't have a pail system because we have 2,000 trees that we tap, and different size diameter trees have more taps. So I would have to have you all coming to help me 40 days in a row. Would everybody like to do that 40 days in a row? You would dump the sap in the morning if it's warm. You would dump the sap again in pails at supper. So a lot of handling, of course, of the sap if it's a pail system. So what you see behind me, this is a mini pipeline system to show you what it looks like. This is what ours is in the woods, and I'll show you a map of what it looks like, but this will give you an idea. So the main line, the black line, runs through the woods, and the sap is coming from the trees. You can see where the tap goes up. The tap goes in the tree. As the tree is chugging, because it's starting to warm up, the sap will run down that blue line, into the back line, into the pail. So when I get done here before we move, if you want to come and check out the pail, and it is actually running in the pail now, so it's gonna loosen up. Now half the pail, of course, is frozen because it was cold last night, right? Somebody asked yesterday, oh, would you just dump out that ice and collect the sap? Whew, no. That ice is full of the sugar and the nutrients from the tree. So no, you don't dump it out. You put it in your evaporator and it'll melt as soon as you put it in the hot evaporator. So no, you don't waste. Absolutely not. After all the work you go to, you don't want to be throwing anything on the ground. So if you want to take a look at that to see what the sap looks like in the pail, you can. And then we're going to come into the front of the camp, so I'll get you to wipe your
Và giống như lần trước mình đã giải thích đó,
boots
thì
and stuff on the
cái
mat,
cách
and we'll
hình
try
thức
to
là mình
space
lấy
out.
cái
Some
sáp
may
đó
have
từ
to
cái
stay
phong và
outside
từ
for
những
we only have so many in the camp, but everybody will
cái
still be
ống
able to
dẫn
hear me and see
mà mình đóng
the
khoan
rest
vào
of
cây,
the
và
program. So if you want to
cái
check
nhựa
out
đó
that,
nó
you
sẽ
can check
chạy
out the
theo cái
pail,
dòng
and then we'll come
ống đó
into
để
the
mình
front
nó
of the camp and I'll
vào
show
trong
you.
cái hộp như thế này, và người ta sẽ bắt đầu người ta sẽ thu hoạch nó. Và bây giờ mình sẽ nhìn thấy đó, thấy chưa? Ở bên trong này. Đó, đây là nhựa đã thu hoạch được.
Và để giải thích thêm cái hồ lúc nãy mà cái cô hướng dẫn viên cô có giải thích cái nguồn nước để cung cấp cho toàn thành phố Greater Moncton, DF, Riverview và Moncton, thì đây chính là cái hồ đó. Trời ơi, cảnh siêu đẹp luôn.
Show you what the taps look like. So this is and this is old. This is 2014, but it just shows you how what the pipeline looks like that runs through the woods, and how many taps, and kind of how it's a maze of pipe that runs through the forest where all of our taps are. Okay, so it's like a maze of pipe. So the black pipe or the blue pipe, we have about 3 miles of blue pipe like this that runs through the woods, and we've got about 15 miles of lateral line that runs through the woods. Okay, now because this pipeline stays up year round, so the pipeline stays up year round, there's animals in the forest that like the taste of the sap as much as we do. So we have to deal with animals. And you know what?
Yeah.
I work in the woods, I love animals, but maple season, they all need to go somewhere else. They need to not be in this small area, because the animals can cause us some grief. And I guess I can leave that there and you guys can see. So this animal, for the little ones that are here, this animal right now is hibernating. And he's about soon to wake up. And when he wakes up, he hasn't had anything to eat or drink for 5 months. So he's a little annoyed, little looking for something. And what happens every year is he comes through the sugar woods just once. But when he comes through the sugar woods, he's looking for something to eat. There's really nothing to eat because it's just pipeline tapped into trees. But his nose is 10 times better than ours. So he can smell the sap in the pipeline. So what he'll do is he'll start biting the pipe. And then as soon as he gets a taste of that sap, he's going to sit there and lick. Because it tastes good. He hasn't had anything to eat for a while. And we have a brook that runs through the sugar woods.
Cô cũng đang giải thích về những cái bắt đầu là vào mùa xuân là cái mùa thu hoạch cái nhựa của cây phong, thì cũng là cái mùa mà họ phải chiến đấu với cả gọi là thú, tức là tụi nó cũng rất là thích cái mật này, cho nên là những cái ống mà khi mà họ văng ra như vậy thì cũng sẽ bị cắn.
His legs are as tall as my head. What animal do we have in the forest that has tall legs like this? And don't say a camel. It's not native to New Brunswick. I had a little guy say dinosaur. No.
No.
Not native to New Brunswick either. No, moose.
Có moose hả? Có moose.
A moose is a big. He's a very big animal. He has a big rack on the top. So a moose. And what a moose will do? He's not eating the pipe, but if he was being chased by a coyote, he'll run through that pipe because that pipe again is all this level. He'll run through the pipe, and this is the size the pipe is supposed to be, and he'll just run until it basically snaps, and then of course that has to be fixed. So moose can definitely cause you problems in your sugar woods. So we don't like the moose in there either. And then this animal, he's kind of cute. Everybody likes him. And I'm not saying I don't like him. Just again, this time of year, he's not my friend. This guy here, again, this is a piece of his hair. So he'll go under my pipe, and a little piece of his hair got caught. And his teeth aren't sharp enough to chew the main line, so he chews the lateral line. So this is what he'll do. He'll chew, see the hair? Yep, he'll chew the pipe. Okay, so this guy is a white-tailed deer.
Cái đó là những cái bằng chứng mà
So
cho
we
thấy
see lots
là
of them
con
in
những
New
cái
Brunswick, and
con thú
actually
Phật
right
nó
now you're going to start to see them coming out on the side of the road
nó phá những
because
cái
they're
ống
changing their
dẫn
gut from
nhựa của cây phong
limbs
quá
and
trình thu
branches
hoạch.
and buds to grass. So you'll see them out, the white-tailed deer, you'll see them out on the sides of roads. So deer will chew your pipe. And I don't know if where the students are here, it's a 4 or 5 year program, but about 4 years ago we had a really nice winter where every weekend in March we had over a foot of snow. And if you think of the pipeline system, like what we have outside, this main pipe needs to be out of the snow. It needs to be up high so when the sun shines on it, it releases that sap so that the sap can run down and into our tanks. Well, for 3 weekends in a row, we had snow over top of those main lines. So that main line all had to be dug out and get up above the snow. And we had an animal for the very first time, in my history anyway, of doing this for 25 years, that was hopping on the snow and sucking my sap.
This look like
Who hops
rabbit,
on the
huh?
snow? Who hops?
Rabbit?
Rabbits, exactly. And rabbits eat buds. But you know what? They're nosy. So all of a sudden, if this is in their face, they're going to be, what is that? They need to taste it. And then it's like, oh, that doesn't taste like the brook. What's in that? So even the rabbits. And I actually have a coyote call. And I was going to call the coyotes. And if I wasn't scared of them working in the woods, I would have. Because coyotes love rabbits. So I like it. But then I don't want the coyotes after the moose. So I can't win. I can't call animals because then I'm just going to deal with the snakes. Now, does anybody know who would have been the first people to discover that the sap in the tree tasted good and you could make something out of it? Long time ago.
Đây là một cái dụng cụ từ rất là ngày xưa để mà dẫn họ đẩy một cái rãnh ở giữa một cái cây gỗ để mà họ dẫn cái nhựa từ cây
They
phong
were the
ra.
first ones to discover that the sap in the tree tasted good. And it's because they were cutting hardwood to keep themselves warm, and they nicked the side of the maple tree. And when they nick the side of the maple tree this time of year, it'll leak. Because when a tree feels air in its body, it will spit out sap to heal itself. So they tasted that sap, and they realized that it tasted good, so maybe we should do something with that and see if we can make something. So this would have been the first spile that was ever, and it's handmade. It would have went into the tree very low, and it would have been collected in like a birch bark casa. You can get birch bark from white birch here in New Brunswick. So they would have collected the sap in birch bark. What's interesting, and I'll show you what they
dụng
made
cụ đó được làm từ
when
một cái
they
gỗ
first
giống
boiled
như
the
gỗ cây
sap.
bạch dương đó,
Wasn't actually
một
maple
cái bạch
syrup.
dương trắng á,
So
là
wood was the
white
very
birch.
first spile. From wood, we went to iron. So for those of you that can see the sort of the rust bucket that's up top, it was made of iron. So iron would have been used for spiles and for pails because we were building the railroad across Canada. So we had lots of iron to build and to use, I guess. So then it went from iron to, do you know what kind of metal this is? The same as my pail. What kind of metal is that?
Aluminum.
Aluminum is correct. And many sugar bushes that are still doing it by hand are using aluminum. But over time, we've changed to plastic just because it's lighter. It's easier to carry through the woods when you're going 15 miles, 3 miles, whatever you're doing. To fix lines, it's easier to have and lighter to have plastic. But one thing that's kind of cool for the older kids, the little kids are
Là
like,
những
but
cái
size of the
mũi để
spile,
mà
you
mình
look at
ấn vào
how,
trong cái
see how
thân
big
cây
the spile end
cái
is?
phong á.
It's
Thì ngày
actually
xưa là
called
người
a
ta dùng là những
7/16,
cái loại đó
so
bằng
it's the actual
nhôm.
size of
Sau
the
đó thì
hole
là
that I would drill
làm
it
tới
through.
bằng những cái vật liệu
So
khác.
for many,
Rồi
many
tới giờ
years,
này
this
thì
was the size of spile that
họ
we
bắt đầu
used.
họ đổ nó lại thành
Over the last
bằng vật
5,
liệu
maybe
nhựa.
6, 7 years, they wanted us to use a smaller spile. And there was a reason behind it. The reason was when you tap a tree and you take your spile out, the bigger spile would take almost 2 years for that to heal over completely. Because what happens is when I drill,
Có một cái điều đặc biệt là khi mình đưa cái ống nó vào trong cái thân cây đó, thì chính là cái nhựa đó nó sẽ tự
when I drill my tree,
làm cho cái
this time of
cái
year or
lỗ cho
before,
cái
as
thân
soon as
cây đó nó
when I
sẽ
put
được
my tap in at a 45 degree
được siêu
angle,
lại.
and I pull my drill bit out, the tree automatically feels air in its body, and it'll pull sap from its roots and spit it out that spile. When the tree has chugged for 3, 4, 5 weeks, and all the buds are ready to burst into leaves, and the tree doesn't need that sugar in the sap anymore, when we take our spiles out, the tree automatically starts to grow wood. And it grows wood from the inside out. And the reason it does it from the inside out is because if anything was seeping out that hole that I've made, birds, insects, moss, lots of things would come to that because they can smell the sap. So the trees are smart enough to know grow wood and then grow wood all the way to the outside
Và
of
khi mà mình đưa những cái
where the
vật thể
spile
lại vào thân cây
started.
như vậy thì giống như
So
là mình
these
đang
only
tạo
take,
thành một cái
these are
vết
called
thương
health
cho
spile,
cây.
they only take a
Thì
year
vào
to
tới
heal,
những
so
cái mùa
everybody's
mà
pretty
sau
well
khi mùa thu
changed
hoạch
over
đó,
to a
thì
smaller,
cây nó sẽ phát
a
triển.
smaller spile.
Cây nó phát
Now
triển xong
everybody
đó
asked,
thì
does
là
it
nó
hurt
sẽ
the tree to
cái
tap
phần
the
gỗ
tree?
nó cũng
No,
sẽ
it
tự
does not.
phát triển ra để nó
I'll
lấp
show
đi
you
cái lỗ mà
my
cái chỗ
board.
cái nút đó mình nhấn vào trong cái thân cây.
Too many boards.
Thì bằng chứng là sau khi mà tới mùa mình rút cái ống
Okay,
ra thì mình sẽ
so
thấy
for a
có
tree,
gỗ nó sẽ nằm luôn
This
trong cái ống
size,
đó.
so pail size, okay? It'll take 1 tap, okay? A tree 12 inches, we can put 2. This big, we can put 3. This big, we can put 4. Okay? That's 4 places on the tree that you're taking sap as that sap goes up and down the tree. Inside the inner bark of that tree, there's thousands and thousands of phloem. The phloem is taking that sap up and down. So even by tapping 4 in a grandmother tree that's 200 years old, you're not hurting the tree. The tree's going to suck that sap, it's going to spit it out your 4 holes, 1 hole, and it's going to continue to take sap up its tree for the buds to grow into leaves. So you're not hurting the tree. Again, with maple, it's all hardwoods. So your ash, your birch, your oak, all hardwood trees need to draw liquid through their body for their leaves to grow. But again, what 2 species can we tap to make maple syrup?
Red marble and sugar marble.
Okay? Now, how you know what those are, if we look at this top one, for the little ones, what letter is in the notch? Can you see the rounded? Don't worry about that phone. It's going to ring all day. The rounded.
Yeah.
Okay, you guys know what it is. Do you guys know what letter this is that's rounded? U. That's right. This is a sugar maple. So you won't forget sugar maple because sugar maple has a U in its name, but sugar maple is also on our Canada flag.
Yeah.
That's how important the maple industry is to Canada. Huge, huge industry to Canada.
Đó
Okay,
chính
so
là
sugar
cái
maple.
maple mà mình lấy được
What about this
là
letter?
đúng của loài Canada.
Got a point. That's right. That's a red maple. So sugar maple and red maple are the two that you can tap to make maple syrup. Now, does anybody know, because I heard somebody over there, who would be the biggest producer of maple syrup in the world? Who do you think?
Canada.
Yeah, but what province?
Maple syrup.
Quebec.
Province. What province?
Quebec.
Quebec,
Quebec is the largest producer of maple syrup in the world. The second largest producer is...
New Brunswick.
Okay, you're coming down. Wind is not my friend. Okay, the second producer is New Hampshire.
New Hampshire.
Whoop, whoop, from New Hampshire. Yep. The second producer. So actually, when you think about it, it's the second producer in the world, but it's the first producer in the United States. There you go. And the third producer in the world is New Brunswick. So little old New Brunswick. We have about 350 producers from 10 pails to 190,000 taps. So you figure on mine, I've got 2,000 trees. Some have one, some have two, some have three. I have some oldies that have 4. 190,000 taps. That's crazy. That's a lot of maple syrup at 40 to 1. A lot of maple syrup. So I'm going to see if I can get to the map, and maybe Brenda can for the girls that are there. There's a section on the map that you can look at after, but it's a dotted line that goes all the way around. So down from the Great Lakes, down through the United States, up to Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, Quebec, and Ontario. So everywhere inside that dotted line is where maple syrup is made. Anywhere outside, it's not made there. And it's because you don't have the soils for the red and sugar maple trees to grow, and you don't have that freeze thaw that happens with your sap in your trees for that 4 to 5 week period. So I had a helper here from the city for probably 5 years that was from Newfoundland. He had never seen maple syrup or even tasted maple syrup before until he came to Moncton. Anybody living from Thunder Bay West? We had somebody that said BC. You don't have maple syrup there either, other than if it's exported maple syrup from either New Brunswick or from Canada. So the largest producer being Quebec. It's been for the last 10 years, 95% of what Quebec makes goes to China. This year it's 98%. So when they take it through their evaporator, they take it off in 50-gallon drums and they sell it bulk. So the big producers are selling bulk to China. We have a lot of New Brunswick maple syrup that goes to Russia, France, Italy, Germany. We have a lot of Canadian maple syrup that travels to the UK. The pins that are on the board is where Moncton maple has gone in our 21-year history. So if you're traveling or you're going home or you're going visiting someone and you're taking Moncton maple with you, we get you to put a pin on the board so we can see how far Moncton maple has gone. And really we have a lot of pins on the board from the UK and elsewhere, and it's because we have in Moncton a lot of universities. We have a lot of immigrants moving to Moncton, which is really nice, of different nationalities. So it's nice for them to learn something that is traditionally Canadian. Everybody knows maple syrup is Canadian. And of course, living here, being able to come to a sugar camp is a tradition that we do in Canada and in New Brunswick, is to in the spring visit a sugar camp and see how maple products are made. So this year, because of COVID, I can't be running the machine when people are here, so it's quiet, it's usually a little noisier. But also what you get for the experience when you come, when I'm boiling, is the steam coming off the evaporator. Like when you're outside, you can smell sweet. When you step inside, it's like, whew, I can smell sweet. Like the sap, as it's boiling off, even though it's only 2% when it starts, it has sweetness in the steam.
Bữa nay là cũng do là
So we
Covid
can't do
cho
that
nên
this year, but we can do a lot of other things that
chỗ
we'll
triển lãm này họ
share
sẽ
today.
không có show cho
Remember
mình cái
how I
cách để
told
nấu,
you, and I
tại
gotta
vì
find
thứ
the
nhất
right
là
board, it doesn't fall down.
cũng hạn chế
Okay,
rồi.
I'll show you this way.
Cái
So
thứ hai
just
nữa
pull
là
it.
khi mình vận
So
hành cái
when
hệ thống
sap
này
was
nó cũng sẽ rất là
originally
ổn.
boiled, it was boiled outside
Khi
in these big
mình
pots.
bật cái
And
hệ thống
underneath there
này
was
để nấu
wood,
thì
okay, that you
bên
would
ngoài mình
heat
sẽ không có
your
cảm nhận được cái
sap
mùi.
with. You would have it in
Cái
these
sap
pots
đó.
outside, you would boil,
Nhưng mà
boil,
khi mình
boil,
bước vào bên trong
try to make something
thì
out
mình
of it.
sẽ cảm nhận được cái
But
mùi
what's
nó rất
really
là ngon.
interesting is the first product that was ever made by boiling sap was not maple syrup, it was maple sugar. Because what happens, as the sap boils, same as here, it boils up like this because it's got sugar in it. So instead of that all boiling over and putting out their fire, they started to stir. And when you start stirring hot maple syrup, it'll crystallize. So the very first product ever made by boiling sap was maple sugar. And if we think of how important that would have been like 200 years ago, to not have any sweetener at all, ever, and all of a sudden be making something sweet from a tree was pretty exciting. Pretty exciting. And this picture here, I had to cut it out of a book, because farther down here, probably about 40 kilometers, there was a sugar maker. And when I make this, I make about 40 pounds at a time. When I make maple sugar, this one family, the Colpit family, made 6,200 pounds of sugar. 6,200 pounds. I make about 250, and I think that's a lot of stirring. 6,200 pounds. And it's all hand work. So basically, you're taking your maple syrup, you're putting it in the pot where these girls are. It's boiling for about 2 hours. When it's cold, it comes on the floor, and you stir and stir and stir. Moving your pot along the floor because it's a cement floor. And then I take it home and I sift it. And when I sift it, it's going to have little hard pieces, which are called chiclets, and that's what you would put in tea or coffee as a sweetener to taste like maple. And then you have the fine sugar, which is just like brown sugar and white sugar, but real. Okay? So your syrup, another thing to tell you. So 2 to 3%. When I take it off here, it's 66% sugar. So maple syrup is 100% pure.
Và những cái thanh mà giống như trong sô-cô-la hay là phần
Okay, so it's 100% pure from the tree
là
through the evaporator coming on as maple
rất
syrup.
là real.
So it's gone from the clear 2 to 3 to 66%. If it says on your bottle it's 100% pure, it is. If it says pure, if it says maple syrup, there's something else in it. It's not a pure product. It has to say 100% pure so that you know nothing has been added to it as an additive. I've had people bring me syrup and I've tried it. Not the same. I had a lady that had a big one like mine, and she said she had bought, and I can say it, she bought it at Walmart, $5. I said, there's no way it's real. Mine's $9, no way it's real. She brought it, we looked at it, beautiful label. It said maple syrup, but it didn't say anything else. We looked on the back, corn syrup, food coloring, and maple flavoring. Was she upset? I said, well, you paid $5. At the end of the day, you pay whatever you pay for Aunt Jemima, and it's totally corn syrup and something else. It's not real. And also, when you think of maple syrup, so you understand how much work goes into it. Amazing amount of work in the woods to keep that pipeline chew-free, to say the least. Then getting the sap here, boiling it. We filter it from the tank in the woods to the truck. From the truck to here. I have a double filter here. I have a filter in my filter press and a filter in my bottler. So that when you bottle it, it's completely clear. 100% maple syrup. Okay, so this is 66%. Your sugar, again, is 80%. So I'm boiling for another 2 hours to make sugar. So you can have sugar in a sugar, you can have sugar in a chiclet, you can have sugar like this. I make this at Easter because it's a little heavier sugar, and it's what you would put on your ham, or you can put it on spare ribs, pork chops, chicken. It's like a spread, or it's like a fudge if you want to eat it like that, but it's more for meat, okay? Also other products that are made from maple syrup. I'm just going to come by you again. So, because everybody always asks what's the difference, okay? So then we have, if we look at this one, maple butter. Butter and cream are totally different. Like this sticking behind there. Okay, so the butter is what you would spread, like on toast. Okay, it's almost like peanut butter. You would spread on toast. This is 80% sugar as well. Just a different way to stir the process and cool it so that it doesn't go crystal. And then the next one is, it's called cream. And this is like a fudge. You would kind of shave it off and then have a little taste or whatever, and then put it back on the counter. All maple products, once you open them, they're all vacuum sealed at a temperature. You should keep them in the fridge. Okay, so once you open them. So these are all 80%. Thank you, girls. And the taffy that we do on the snow, which I had to do different this year, but we'll have a little treat. That is 80%. And the very last thing Brenda will get out of the freezer. So we're going from 2 to 3, 66, 80, and the next one is 85%. It's as far as you can go with boiling the sap.
Và đây là một cái loại
And this
mà
is
được xem là
real maple candy. Okay, so the maple candy you get at the dollar store, in the little packages that look like a maple, they're not real. They're corn syrup with maple flavoring. Real hard maple candy has to stay in the freezer. If I was to leave this on the counter for half an hour, it would go into a glob. That tells you that it's real. Okay, so the way maple candy works, it's in a container, you open the container, you put a piece in your mouth, you suck on it, you put it back in your mouth. Oh, here comes the You put it back in the freezer, and then it's there. This is something you could have almost, not year round because it might not last, but you'd have it for a time. Okay, so that's as far as you can go, is 85% to get you to the hard maple candy. Okay? So any questions about all that information that was, you know, kind of snow? So it's basically boiling your syrup and then you pour it on the snow and you roll it on a stick. But this year, because of COVID, we can't do that, but guess what? I can still make it and freeze it, and you can still have it as a treat. So we can have it as a treat. It's a springtime tradition, but we have to do it outside. So I'll bring it outside, and then you can take your mask and you can have it. For those of you that have not had taffy before, when it warms up in your mouth, it's going to do this. It's going to get stringy because it's, again, it's thicker syrup.
Có đây
Okay?
Cảnh
So the
bày cho
taffy
mình
that's
cái
on the
cách để
stick
làm
is the
sao để
same that's
ăn
in the
cái gỗ
cones.
taffy đó.
Okay, it's maple taffy. It's not maybe as messy in the cone, but this is how you know that you've been to a sugar camp and you've experienced something that is traditionally
Và cái này cũng được xem như là một món rất là truyền
So
thống
has
của
everybody
người
had taffy
Canada.
on the snow, or who has not had taffy on the snow before? Oh,
Not yet.
okay. So we good. Good. Does everybody like sweet though? Because I will tell you this.
Absolutely.
It is sweet. There's
Yeah.
no question. It's got a sweet taste. Okay, so I'm going to put this in the middle.
Con lấy đi.
You can grab your own. You just got to get it so that it comes off. Okay, I'm going to go back here and bang it on the top of my finger. Yeah, you guys.
Coi như là bữa nay là cũng kết thúc một cái tour cũng khá là thú vị bằng một cái que taffy cực kỳ là thú vị, và làm sao để mình biết được là mùi vị của cái taffy này là thật hay là không thật. Đó, thì bây giờ là mình thấy nè, đó, ăn ở trên tuyết nhé.
Tự nhiên mà lá cờ của Canada nó có một cái shape của hình lá phong, thì nó cũng là một cái đặc trưng, bởi vì không phải cây phong nào cũng cho ra được cái syrup như thế này. Và thêm một cái điều đặc biệt nữa là khi mình dùng cái syrup này á, là mình sẽ phải sau khi mở cái nắp chai này ra thì bỏ vào trong tủ lạnh liền, đừng có để bên ngoài thì nó sẽ bị kích tinh những cái tinh thể đường ở bên dưới, để làm cho mình sẽ cảm thấy là khó ăn được. Đó thì như vậy thôi. Ta-da, chia tay nhé. Ta-da.